So out of Africa theory basically says that the human population emerged from Africa, specifically East Africa, about 50,000 to 100,000 years ago, and humans started to move out of the geography and adapt, and they started creating new technologies to develop a hunting and gathering. The Neolithic Revolution began a significant change in human history by changing many lifestyles from hunting and gathering to becoming much more sedentary lifestyles and growing crops like wheat and barley. This shift allowed many to have much more free time, creating more specialized roles in societies. As the agricultural revolution evolved and spread, mass cities and civilizations evolved, like Mesopotamia and Indus River valleys. These civilizations consisted of a mass group population and one significant ruler, usually being held in power by the use of religion or force to control their society. This would soon become the foundation for future civilizations throughout the world and bring conflict. As civilizations started to expand in population and size, more resources were needed to sustain the population. This led to interaction and conflict with other empires. With these new conflicts of foreign empires and need for resources, militaries and a centralized government with political elites were created to control these situations. Religion was used as a moral code to unify people. It could also be used to gain authority and raise one's economic and social class. Some religions, like Buddhism and Christianity, helped improve social class for. As the main trade route for centuries continued to develop, which is the Silk Road, many more means of getting goods between its empires were necessary, such as trade routes like the Indian Ocean trade, and plenty of others throughout the world developed in different regions to globalize trade further and expand many different cultures. The disease, the Black Death, quickly moved from the Eastern world towards Europe with the means of the trade route, the Silk Road, causing millions of people to die in Europe, corrupting many powers in this region. This halted Europe from its rising in power, but as they slowly began to recover, later being seen as ones to explore the new worlds and becoming high in power. As the Eastern world was still evolving, many began to discover of the new world in the West, using it to find riches, fame, and spread religion. As this world developed under the European powers, the Atlantic slave trade developed to import slaves from Africa and goods, as well as export new materials and goods from this new world, which lasted a few hundred years, creating the Americas we have in the present. Many Europeans came overseas to search for a new life and hope in the West. As these people colonized, it affected the native population, killing millions of Native Americans and the coloners to rise to the top, controlling what will soon be one of the greatest powers to come. The Industrial Revolution began in Europe, which advanced technology to become more tech-oriented, creating inventions to manufacture goods, and the use of many scientists to create ideas for new ways to improve quality of life. Soon this idea of industrializing, instead of relying on agriculture, soon globalized the rest of the world. While Japan was the last, yet fastest to develop these ideas when they realized the industrialization during the Meiji Revolution. Many forms of government were centralized in the high powers of the world and were used in colonized regions such as the Americas and many other regions which were taken over. This stirred up anger in these colonies, encouraging them to revolt against their superior powers. Many revolutions such as the American, French, Haitian, and Taiping Revolution are examples of the group of people trying to change the political power for unfair political rules. Imperialism inspired new ideas about nationalism, race, and culture in the controlled regions, leading to revolution. Imperialism was covered up as still a form of colonialism, even though many disbelieve these authoritative figures and thought that it was invading pre-existing countries. The World Wars, World War I and World War II, were conflicts that arose in the early 1900s, mainly fought in Europe. There's a lot of disagreement in the great powers of the world at this time. Many factors such as Italian fascism, the political takeover of the Nazi Party by Hitler, and Japanese militarism created a global conflict which many countries were involved in. This changed history by the victors and created precautions to delay any further worldwide conflict. Soon after World War II, when the USSR declined, a passive war began between the two biggest powers of all time. This war was based off of passive revolts with nuclear technology and threats on which one would drop a nuke first. Nothing was dropped and the war ended somewhat peacefully. But during this time, many other regions became independent through proxy wars that benefited the world with. The idea of communism originated from the ideologies of Karl Marx, who came up with the idea around the 1840s. This form of government came into a big role in the 20th century, where most conflicts revolved around this idea of communism and capitalism colliding. This separating world caused many significant conflicts to arise.